building spirituality, family, health, and business. This is the Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.
Happy Tuesday, Giant Builders. I'm here today again, and my guest is Michaela Balo. And I met her on Facebook. It seems like I meet a lot of our guests on Facebook, but it's a great place to find some people who really have some very, very interesting topics. So welcome, Michelle. How are you today?
Good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yes. So I'm a women's exercise specialist, and my main focus is to help women learn the language of their body. So what their body is saying to them so they can flourish in every season they experience. So I do this through movement. I work with women in business and just trying to dissect, okay, what does my body actually need? And then we can move forward. So that way, when it happens again, now you're already 5 steps ahead.
Okay, so tell me, what does it mean to listen to your body, and how can that change both your productivity and your health goals?
So the body is always telling us something, right? A lot of times the easiest way to explain this is when we're hungry, typically our body tells us that we're hungry. But there's so many other ways that our body communicates to us, and that's whether we're constantly fatigued or maybe we have a hard time getting up in the morning. A lot of us know those aches and pains with whatever, low back or ankles, or, oh man, the knees are a big one. And so by just learning to tune in, particularly even women who have a monthly cycle, learning to tune in and say, okay, this is what my body is saying. And now we can say, okay, maybe I can try something and see if my body adapts to it. Because pain in the body, real like a side note, pain is the body's way of telling us that something is off. It may not necessarily be that one spot where there's pain. It could be referred pain. It could be the body's just, maybe there's not as many brain nerve connections to that spot. There's so many things, right, that the body tells us. So just by stopping and taking the time to listen and process, then we're able to actually help and move forward.
So when I'm listening to my body, do I understand that it might be something that I'm eating, or it might be something that a way that I'm moving? Is that kind of a direction that you're leading me?
Yes, both. So, for example, I am autoimmune. I have a thyroid condition that is autoimmune. And so a lot of times we call it like an elimination diet, right? What is actually triggering inflammation in the body? And that way you can know, okay, this food specifically really just everything goes out of whack when I eat it. But for some people, once we bring down that inflammation level, they can actually eat certain foods again, right? So learning where the balance is. So for me, I can have typically dairy and gluten are absolutely no-nos, but then I have nightshades that when I am in the flare up, I can't have. That just makes it completely worse. But when I'm doing well, I can have nightshades and it barely affects me, right? So learning those steps and how to take care of yourself really does really help you move forward, right?
I do understand that, because I also have a type of autoimmune, and I find that certain foods do affect me as well. And I find that, and maybe this is common, but sugar is just a really bad thing specifically for me. Is that a common, really bad issue?
Yeah, sugar is definitely one that does increase inflammation. Sometimes what I actually like to do with my group of women is to do a sugar, like processed sugar-free challenge. And even when I'm in a flare up, I can have fruits, and that still, I can feel my gums, right? They get sore because that's also sugar. So we do have to be aware of how sugar does affect our body. I am a fan of eliminating it as much as you can, realistically, right? We're all humans. Enjoy your chocolate, periodically, but just know where your level is. And that's really what's important, right? What works for someone may not work for you.
So how do I incorporate brain-based training and lymphatic work into movement? And what role do they play?
So brain-based training is basically how to activate different parts of the brain, right? So neighboring areas of the brain can increase their effectivity. They can increase, almost like turn the light bulb on, right? And so, the purpose behind brain-based training is that your brain needs to know that it's actually safe to change. Okay, so there's visual work where we work on eye tracking, or watching if your eyes like can actually focus on an object for 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Something like that will actually help you focus on your work. If your eyes can't stay still as you read, or if they're jumping while you read, you're going to be more fatigued. So by working on that, not only does it actually activate different pathways in your brain to like stabilize your core, but it actually helps you focus more on work or when you're looking at and reading. And then we have vestibular work, where it's your balance and coordination. So if your body thinks that you're going to fall over all the time, it's going to use a lot of energy trying to keep you upright. So just simple ways to add that into your normal movement routine will actually make your body progress faster, because your brain is saying, okay, now it's safe to change. And so that's one way that we incorporate into movement. So like, for example, I sprained my ankle a couple times. And when you picture like a wall, so if you put your hand down, you have all 5 fingers down right next to the wall, you're supposed to put your foot right up to your hand. And then your knee is supposed to move those 5 inches to touch the wall, right? So we're talking about range of motion here. And my knee was always about 3-4 inches from the wall. I had no range of motion. No matter what I did, I would roll out, I would do stem, I would heat, nothing. And so then I started doing ankle mobility. So allowing my ankle to actually roll onto the side, safely, of course. I started working on different eye patterns and movement. And then I started working on some vestibular work. And now I have full range of motion just by simply doing that, right? So by learning to help your brain recognize, okay, it's safe to do this range of motion, I'm not going to get hurt doing it. That's how brain-based training makes a huge difference. So we have, and then we talk about lymphatic work. So lymphatics, you have a huge lymphatic system that helps remove toxins in the body. We often think about lymph nodes, right? When we're sick, our lymph nodes are swollen. And so by working the lymphatic system, you're actually, again, telling the body that it's safe to remove toxins. So if you have a backup in the lymphatic system and you're doing a high cardio workout, or you try to do a detox protocol, you're likely going to feel those flu symptoms if your lymphatic system is not working properly, because now all those toxins are just sitting in your body recirculating. So movement actually helps, obviously, like rebounding, or any type of running that helps stimulate the lymphatic system. But there's also ways to incorporate that into movement more specifically.
Tell me, what would be like a first meeting with you? What would that look like?
So our first meeting, we would essentially go over what are your goals. We would do an extensive health history. So if you've had concussions, if you've had hormone imbalances, any type of ailments, we'd really dive into. And then we'd go through a movement assessment to where I can see you walk, I can see you try to balance, very simple movements, so I can just see how your body is doing. And so that's what we would start with before I create and design a personalized program from there.
So what type of symptoms work well with your services?
So I work with a lot of women who have hormone imbalances. So let's say you wake up and it's just so hard to get out of bed, right? No matter how much sleep you got, you're just drained of energy. Or let's say you have PMS, like very bad PMS, or some type of either a lot of cortisol. So let's say cortisol, like I said, it's either draining in the morning, or you try to build muscle, but then you can't. It's just nothing seems to be working. That's a cortisol issue oftentimes. I work a lot with autoimmune conditions, women living with thyroid conditions, pregnancy, postpartum. So any of those are going to be very, and even low back pain, right? I do work with a lot of women who have low back pain mixed in. So any of those types of symptoms, right, that come with each of those. So maybe you're always in a flare up, or you just never know when your back pain is going to come back. Or let's say one thing and then you're out for the whole month. So just working to help you really flourish instead of being in fear of those things happening.
Well, that is really, really interesting. It's amazing to me how much the body itself can heal itself. It's always intriguing that God just gave us the ability to do this. And I'm very honored that the wisdom is with people like you to help us find that process.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the most, it's just amazing, right, to see how the body was designed and how it's just naturally built to really come back from injury. And the modern health industry doesn't focus on this, and so oftentimes we have women who have tried everything and they keep blaming themselves for a body that doesn't seem to be working or doesn't seem to be responding. And then oftentimes we just come in and say, maybe it's just the brain, maybe it's just the lymphatics, maybe we just need to activate different parts. And then we start seeing that those tiny shifts happen, all based on the design of how we were designed and made.
Any closing thoughts?
When we talk about just taking steps, and sometimes we get overwhelmed because we think, okay, if I only reached the end goal, then everything will be better. But just learning to take it one step at a time, right? And just being fully where you are, even if it's not where you want to be, even if you're in the middle of a flare up, just ask yourself, what does my body need today? How can I help it today? And oftentimes it's just one or two things that we can do, even when we're in the flare up, even when we're too busy to move forward, that we can actually do something to help us progress.
So how do people locate you?
So you can locate me. I'm on social media. I'm on Instagram, Cr3ation Fitness, CR3 for creation. And I am also on Facebook, Cr3ation Fitness, Real Moms New Normal. I have a Facebook group. And you can also email me, cr3ation.fitness@gmail.com.
Great. Well, I really appreciate your time and your knowledge and for sharing with us. I thought that was very interesting. So thank you so very much. Thank you, Giant Builders. We'll see you next Tuesday at 2:00. And make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.